Welcome back to the PT Graduate Podcast. Very excited to introduce my guest today, Mr. Benjamin Siong. Hey, Ben, how are you?
I am very well, mate. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you very much for joining me and giving me some of your time. It's much appreciated. So you've probably done this more than once, and you're probably used to give us the intro. How did you get into the industry? All that sort of stuff, because everybody's journey is different, and it's really interesting just to get all those different perspectives and then sort of be able to go, oh, I like that. I like that. I could do this. I could do that, particularly for the new people in the industry who are wanting to, be successful, get in and stay in the industry, which is what the podcast is really about.
Yeah,
So I know you've been in the industry for a number of years. Am I right in saying at least 17 plus?
17 plus, 21
Yeah.
this year.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
That was recorded a while ago then. So yes, give us your journey because it's really interesting, and it's interesting how you've decided what your area of speciality is and what you do and how you do it. And I've seen you at conference and listened to you talk.
Mm.
It's a fascinating subject. So start from wherever you like.
Well, I right now my specialties are body composition. So I specialize in body composition, in teaching people how to effectively put on muscle and lean up, and correlating that with health, because a lot of the times extreme body composition or looking a certain way that you see in social media is not necessarily correlated with optimal health. Uh,
Yes.
my goal is to be able to teach people to be able to get the most out of their health, but also to look the best as a result of that, right? So health being the foundation and the basis of looking a certain way. My journey into fitness was spurred on because as I grew up, I was an obese individual. So I
Okay.
grew up obese, and I had many, I guess, many instances of being bullied, as well as being ridiculed for looking a certain way.
Sure.
And that kind of changed my perspective of what I wanted to do with myself. So the turning point in my sort of, I would say the turning point of
Hmm.
this whole fitness journey um, started off in a lift. And
Ah,
I was in a lift with my best friend. And for whatever reason, he looked at me in that confined space, and he looked at me and he said, "What, Ben, you're really fat." And that hit me really hard, because this was my best mate. This was the
yeah.
guy I thought would be supporting me.
Yeah.
But he said this in a very serious tone, and then he laughed it off. Uh,
Right.
it wasn't a supportive sort of, hey, he was joking with you. So
Mm,
I took that pretty hard,
mm,
and I said, look, if I've been ridiculed throughout my schooling, throughout my life, but this is my best mate
mm,
in the
mm,
lift,
mm.
and I decided to make a change. And so
Right.
that change kind of sparked on into a challenge I gave myself to lose the excess weight.
Mm,
And I remember I took quite drastic measures to lose that. In terms of nutrition or training, I had known nothing. I
yeah.
only understood that if I ate a little bit, if I did more cardio, I ran a
Sure.
little bit more,
Yeah.
perhaps
Yeah.
I could lose that weight. And so that
Yeah.
was exactly what I did. I starved myself. I remember having only a bowl of cereal in the morning and nothing else throughout the entire day. So
Mm,
you could put my calories to, 500 to 600 a day, if
yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
And I remember doing a lot of running, but I was so embarrassed in taking myself outside to run. I actually ran on the spot in my room in front of the mirror.
Right.
And I distinctly, and this was every day, I distinctly remember putting my towel down on the floor and running on the spot and looking at myself and saying, you're gonna do this. You're gonna lose that
Mm,
weight.
mm, mm.
So I kind of isolated myself from friends, from family. I just did what I needed to do on a daily basis, and within a period of 3 months, I had lost 22 kilos, which was really extreme for someone like myself.
Mm.
So this was it. I did things the wrong way, but I lost the weight.
Yeah.
And what I did gave me that confidence to say if I really wanted to do something, I could do something. And that was the learning that I took away from this whole experience. And that was kind of the start of this journey. It was a journey that was sparked off from my best friend,
Mm.
and gave me that sort of a willpower to lose that weight. And I went through for the next 2 years bouts of a really poor emotional connection with food. I always felt like I couldn't eat much, or I convinced myself that I didn't need any sort of food. And then I would gouge my food, indulge in buffets, and then try to dig my food out and go to the toilet. And so it was a very
Mm,
unhealthy relationship with food I had for the next 2 years.
mm,
And right after that, my perspective sort of changed because I decided at that point of time I needed to put on muscle. And to put on muscle, I couldn't just keep doing this.
mm,
And it happened kind of overnight, looking at a magazine, and I said, I needed to change. I needed to change my lifestyle.
mm, mm.
And that kind of, brought me into fitness. And lo and behold, here I am. I mean, I'm actually qualified as a psychologist. So I'm a shrink.
Okay.
And fitness wasn't my first choice of
Mm,
career option.
mm.
It was something that I was really interested in, but I did psychology because I really wanted to understand the mindset of obese people and how I could potentially help them because I used to be there.
Yes.
During that time as well, I enrolled in a personal training course, and I did and understood training with weights, resistance training, and how to get my body to where I needed it to be from a health level and also from a physical aesthetic level.
Mm, mm.
And so combining all of that, I think it seemed sort of natural that fitness would be the option that I chose much later. So I did a few years of whether it's marketing or whether it's in my field of psychology, and then I decided this wasn't for me.
Yep.
And I wanted
Yep.
to interact with people, and I had this real passion for fitness, and so I embarked upon fitness. And
Sure.
lo and behold, here I am today. One thing has led to the other, and it's a very interesting sequence of events that has allowed
Mm,
me to be here. So for me,
mm,
more than
mm.
anything else, I was the person that did not epitomize fitness in any way, from my lifestyle, from the way I looked, from the way my body reacted. I was the person who learned through the hard way, studied more, understood more. Every time I learned something, I always felt that the more I learned, the dumber I felt. So I needed to find more, seek
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
truth in that sense.
Mm,
And this journey continues today. In fact, prior to speaking to you, I was just doing research on a whole bunch of papers as well. I tend to do that quite often, just to keep up with trends and to understand, if there's anything that I need to add to my repertoire, my
sure.
knowledge.
Sure.
But yeah, so this is where it's led me today, and today I run a fitness. I would say I'm in the fitness industry. I run a fitness
Yep.
business. I run a gym in Melbourne, a strength
Mm.
and conditioning gym called Australian Strength Performance.
Yes.
And this gym has been open for about 10 years right now here. And we do a lot with body composition, very specialized nutrition training protocols. But on top of that, I also run a sort of an education, have an education focus where I develop courses and I teach internationally in conferences, as well as bring my courses to countries and
Yep.
actually train trainers. So
Okay.
yeah, in that sense, the trainer's trainer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fantastic. So how do you deliver those courses? Do you travel quite a lot and someone else manages the day-to-day for you?
Correct. So my role right now, I've kind of deviated away from the gym itself. I mean, the gym is a great space where I can continue to get my hands dirty in that sense. I
Mm,
still have clients, I still personal train,
mm,
but for a good chunk of the year, I do a lot of traveling. So I travel internationally to give talks and conferences,
mm.
but also I deal a lot with teaching my courses to students within these particular countries. So it's live courses, and I also have a platform that does online courses and seminars. So I do a lot of consulting
Okay.
work with regards to that. Yes.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And so people that would be attracted to your gym, is it very specialty, or is it general population? Because obviously the area that you specialize in.
I started off wanting to create a niche for myself. And so the way the gym is laid out, from the equipment chosen to the positioning of everything, is very purpose built for a specialty. We really wanted to train serious athletes.
Okay.
But as I started to progress in my journey, I really wanted to reach out to the general population. I feel that
Mm,
all of us have an understanding. Our body has a capacity to train well. And a lot of
Mm,
people
mm.
don't get exposure to that. A lot of people think it's, if I want to look somewhere, I need to train like a bodybuilder. And that's not the case. There's so many different styles and ways of training to coax the body into being its best. And so, yes, the gym is set up as a specialty gym, but we train everyone. We
Right,
train,
right.
youths, we train mothers, we train corporates, we train people who are serious as athletes as well as bodybuilders. It's literally anyone who has a goal and they know what they
Mhm.
want to work towards. They give us a vision of that goal, and we help them achieve that.
Fantastic. And so a number of trainers that are in that facility working for you, working with you.
Yes, yes. So I've got 5 trainers.
Yeah, yeah. And so do they, because of the way you do things, I know you're very specialized, very specific in terms of body composition. Do they fall under your umbrella in terms of the way they deliver, or do they sort of find their own niche and stick to that? How do you organize it?
They as a coach, we educate them. So they have to go through the Australian Strength Performance Education System.
Right.
So they do the courses as well. They understand
Sure.
what our philosophies are,
Yeah.
but also because it focuses on body composition, and we can extrapolate that body composition to every part of life. Essentially, like I said, it's health first, and health forming the
Mm,
basis of how your body would look and feel.
mm,
So yes, so some of them, that majority of the clients that actually come here are interested in a better version of themselves, and typically it's not in anything overly specific. It may not be in a sport, lifting or CrossFit. We
mm,
definitely do get the occasional athlete that we will focus specifically on, but a lot of people just want to better themselves. So whether it's in functional movements, whether it's in lifting
mm,
everyday things,
mm,
whether it's in primal movement patterns, we
mm.
help them to achieve that. And obviously there is a method and specific programming to help them achieve that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. And in terms of sort of the nitty gritty of how you help people with their health, are there some specific things that you look at? Well, I guess alongside, but I don't know in terms of the timing, whether you start with their health and then you move into the gym, or you start them in the gym and then you talk about health. And when you talk about health, what sort of things do you look at in terms of, do you do bloods or what's your approach?
My approach is first finding out what they can commit to and what their lifestyle is. So I
Right.
don't even talk about health,
Okay.
because at the end of the day, it is compliance. To
Mm,
get results
mm,
with clients, a
mm,
lot of trainers are so focused on knowledge that they fail to apply. Uh,
mm,
and the first thing we do is apply, is compliance. So let's find out about your lifestyle. Let's find out, what can you actually commit to first? What are some of the pitfalls that you see yourself falling behind if you were to follow a program? Would it be your children? Would it be the fact that you've got irregular working hours? Would it be the fact that you've got to entertain clients? Would it? So we try to find all this out first.
sure.
And then after that, we then start to piece everything together. So then we look at lifestyle. Yes, we try to understand. I guess a system we use is one of the systems that was originally used by Charles Poliquin, called Bioprint, which is
Mm,
really to understand their body composition.
yep.
We use calipers,
Yep.
and then from there we infer whether there is a correlation with hormonal imbalances within their body or lifestyle choices that they make that causes them to put on fat.
Sure.
And so then we try to understand that. We try to work through sort of nutrition with them and lifestyle
Hmm.
changes.
Hmm.
We don't do bloods. We don't touch bloods
Yep.
unless there is a necessity where we actually send them to a specialist to find out what is going on, and
Yep.
then from there we can help them implement any sort of lifestyle changes. So we know
Sure.
our boundaries. We're not doctors. We're not physicians.
Hmm.
We're there to be able to encourage them, but also there to give them more practical changes in their lifestyle. And this could potentially mean clients that will not cook, for example. If you're talking about nutrition plans, we find that if you tell a client, and this is very common in the industry, look, I want to prescribe nutrition, I want to give nutrition.
Mm,
Personal
mm,
trainers, we're not allowed to prescribe. We
mm,
know that
mm,
for a fact. We're
mm,
allowed to suggest.
mm,
That's for one. And when you talk about nutrition, you see a lot of people, they're working with calories and working with this and that. But a lot of these numbers, these plans, which focus on calories, are not practical for a lot of clients because they might follow it for a short period of time, but they
mm.
cannot sustain it. Now, we want to be able to teach them an understanding of choosing better food when they go out. We want to teach them a lifestyle. So for us, it's also finding out what is convenient for them, because giving them a caloric plan may mean that if this person doesn't cook, they have to learn to cook. Now, great if someone wants to learn how to do it, but a lot of these people want convenience. They're not going to learn how to do it, which also means your plan is lost on them.
Yeah.
So what's the use? What's the use of giving that knowledge when your client doesn't adhere or comply with that knowledge? So we work on understanding, okay, if we were to follow a plan, what could you follow? If there were places around your work or your home that you typically go and buy food from, what do these places serve? What can we teach you about choosing the right foods from these particular places? What can we teach you about making the right choices when you can cook? And so forth. So it's practical solutions that actually make the biggest bang for buck in their life. And that's what we do with lifestyle. Okay, this is all hinging upon the results we get from the bioprint itself. And then on top of that, we work with specific programming. This is to understand, imbalances, limitations that they might have. What can we do to help them get better within the gym? It has to be programs that they can adhere to based on the number of days, based on the movement patterns, based on what they're confident in doing, and so we build them up that way. So you could say every program tends to be quite specific based on the character of the person as well.
Yeah, very personalized, very personalized,
Correct.
as it should be. A couple of times you there used the word compliance, and I know that from my own studies, from a nutritional point of view, the people that were successful were those who were most compliant, and it didn't matter what the diet was, what the style of eating was, and so on. The umbrella, the meta-analysis showed that compliance was the key thing, and it sounds like what you've done is you've taken that and you've gone, right, what is the easiest thing for them to do, and talking about their neighborhood and making it as specific to their daily patterns as possible.
Spot on.
And made it the least amount of friction for the most amount of success. So it sounds like there's a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, and a lot of good execution that's gone into that. That isn't something that's just happened by accident.
Yep. You're absolutely right. It is literally that ability to teach them how to comply. And like you said, it's got to be the lowest hanging fruit. I think as coaches and trainers, a lot of us have an ideal of what we want to give our clients, where we want our clients to be. And we give them this list of 10 things that they need to change to start off with. When essentially, when let's say these courses that I teach as well, it's all about teaching coaches how to select what they want to give their clients. Rather than a list of 10, we start with a list of 1. What is the one thing that you can change that creates the biggest change within your client, that they don't feel like they have to give up, the world in order to make that change? One step at a time. And as simple as it might sound, people would think this is rhetorical information. Why are you teaching this? As rhetorical as it is, many trainers don't do that. Many trainers don't. They're so eager to show how smart they are. They give all that information and they overwhelm their clients, and the results are not seen. So sometimes the simplest methods are the best methods. Start with that first, and then you can start to progress into, I guess, giving them bigger changes and specifying those specific changes.
Yeah. It sounds like putting the psychology first, which is unusual because in this industry, typically we'll go so far down the path and realize that it's the top 2 inches is where the success comes from, and then go and do some study to make sure we actually know what we're talking about. You've done it the other way around. You went and did the psychology first, and I think that's the smart way of doing it. I really wish I had done that myself. Is that the case? Are these things that you're talking about in terms of the way you operate, is that driven by the psychology that you learned, or is it something that you've picked up along the way, or is it a combination?
I would say it's a combination. It's a combination of obviously failures with clients, and why don't they comply? But it's also understanding that everyone has their own mental block towards something, and that mental block, whether it's an emotion that they have created growing up with a particular food or with their own confidence, it is something that I think as trainers, we have a lot of authority and power to be able to help them or suggest changes for them. right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are obviously lines to be drawn where people at a certain stage may need different help. For example, to overcome a particular emotional connection with food. Let's say this someone is continually and repetitive emotional eater, they may need something like psychology or neuro-linguistic programming, which is out of your scope, and you can refer them obviously. But I think as trainers, we see them so often, and so we have the ability to suggest to them what they potentially could do, and actually kind of build that up. So that's really what we work on. We work on the little things that we can chip away, to help a client be a better version of themselves.
I like it. It's good. It's this is the bits. These are the things I love. It's fascinating. I remember one of your lectures. I think I caught the end, it wasn't the whole thing, but I remember you talking about managing macros essentially, and I think the bit that stuck in my mind was where you said that somebody would stay on the same calories, but if you adjusted their macros, so you changed a few carbs for a few proteins, kept them on the same amount, that would have enough of an impact that, because of protein obviously being taking more energy to digest and process, therefore their overall caloric output was higher, therefore they would be in a greater deficit, staying on the same calories. And I kind of was aware of some of that, but it was when you delivered it in the way that you delivered it, I was like, oh my goodness, that's the fine tuning, just the tweaking of the graphic equalizers of nutrition that that people probably aren't aware of. But do you find that you get down to that level of detail with your clients, or is it much more higher level? Where does it normally land?
No, I get down to that detail. However, I deliver it differently. I don't need to explain it to them. I tell them what they need to do, what they want to hear, what they need to do. So instead of telling them the reason behind it, and depending on the client as well, right?
Sure.
My own personal clients right now, I do a lot of mentorship. So I would say a good 95% of my personal clients are all trainers. So if I'm training a trainer, I will give them an understanding so that they can apply it themselves, right? However, if I'm training just, an average individual that comes to the gym, I will tell them what I want you to do is I want you to increase the amount of protein that you have and drop the amount of carbs in a very simple way. Rather than saying protein and carbs, well, you're eating X amount of rice. I want you to drop this amount, talk about portion sizes. And I want you to have another half a portion of chicken.
Sure.
So it's a simple solution. But there is a profound reasoning behind why I tell them to do that. And for a lot of my clients as well, I would do the calculation of macros, I would do the calculation of calories, but I will address it and give it to them in portion sizes. Okay, you're eating, this amount of chicken. Can you do 1 1/3, 1 1/2? So it gives them an understanding of, okay, well, if I can see it, this is roughly what I should be having.
Yeah, so it's much more practical. Like you say, it depends who you're talking to, I suppose, isn't it? In terms of where their knowledge base is and what they can relate to.
What their personality type is. There are a lot of people, if you're dealing with a lot of CEOs, for example, and directors, some of them are very specific. They want to know the why, give me the details, right? And there are individuals like that. And some of them would come to you and say, I really don't want to know why you're doing all this. Just tell me what you need me to do and I'll do it. So it's important before I start to strategize with clients, before I start to plan and give them their programs, I like to know what sort of a personality I'm dealing with. That's probably the best way to be able to give your clients a solution, because that solution becomes tailored to them.
So do you profile them in some way when they start with you?
Not specifically.
Okay.
Not specifically. I think for us, it's more towards what is really interesting is we tend to attract the clients that is quite similar to ourselves.
Okay.
So I find this with all my coaches as well. Especially when clients come through, we talk to them, we know what sort of person they are. We go, okay, I think this person would do better with that coach. And that's how we kind of distribute them to our coaches as well. Right. Because all our coaches in terms of skills, they're all very, very skilled. Every one of our coaches within my center itself has been a coach for more than 10 years. So, we take experienced coaches, But also at the same time, in order to go, okay, this client is better with you, we look at their profile. We look at how they speak to the client. Is this client really numbers driven and very specific? Then you need a certain type of coach. This client more blasé. They like to kind of talk, relax a little bit, but nevertheless, you're still aimed at getting them results. It's just a different way of interacting with them, which coach suits the best. So we tend to do a lot of that when clients come in.
Sure. So from a personality point of view, that's one aspect. Do you look at, with the advent of epigenetics and sort of getting under the hood of how people are put together, do you also sort of consider body types, and does that play a factor in how you treat people, or are you still able to take the same approach with most people and get results?
Well, no, you definitely need to consider body types. There's no doubt about that.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. We do a very general consideration of body types as opposed to something as specific as pH, for example.
Yeah.
Right. And when we look at individuals, obviously there are a few things that we need to ask them. And we need to match it to start off with the practicality of their lifestyle and what they are capable to do at this point of time, which may detract away from what their original body type needs them to do. Okay. So some people, for example, if you're talking about foods, let's say, we know according to, let's say we're looking at pH down here, there are specific body types that will feed on certain foods better than others, certain types of foods at certain times of the day, certain portion sizes. But a lot of these clients that come in, they have a completely different lifestyle. Are they 100% committed to changing that at this point of time? Probably not. So that is not my lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah.
So I would work with the lowest hanging fruit first until I get that compliance that I need from them, until I see that they want it. And they will tell you, I really want this. I want to, and whether they're aiming for a photo shoot or they're aiming for a goal, as you earn their trust and they start to tell you, I want this, this is when you can start to focus in and zone in and say, okay, well, let's try this. Now, I don't necessarily tell them your body type will require this. I would say, I want you to try this, and let's see how you go. And when they see results, this is where they go, okay, cool, let's follow this. Do you feel better with it? Great. Is your energy levels better? Great. Are your libido levels higher? Great. Are you getting, all that kind of stuff, and then we work with that.
Yeah. So it's a consideration, but it's certainly not the primary priority. Yeah.
No, yeah. We also take a lot into consideration coordination and training age. So coordination essentially is, looking at the lifestyle of the client as a child growing up, and what they used to do as well. So, there is a direct correlation with the ability to coordinate themselves and obviously the results and progress in the gym, right? And this is quite interesting, and carrying from a very general basis, going to different countries, you start to see different individuals based on the cultures of the countries that you will find clients extremely uncoordinated or actually really coordinated. And you will see that not just in Australia, when I do general traveling as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And so then when you're dealing with clients that are extremely uncoordinated, you really have to dumb your programs down. It's not a bad thing. It's just understanding where they start. So their start point has to completely change. And that start point will have to focus on something completely different, which really could be just range of movement. Exactly right.
Yeah. Do you do any sort of movement pattern assessments, those sorts of things when they come in to get a gauge on where that start point is?
100%. Yes, we do.
Right.
Yeah. So we have a fixed system of assessment or analysis. We basically look at them from a static point of view, so static posture. Then we look at their dynamic posture, and we have a battery of exercises, assessments that we take them through. We understand what's going on. That becomes the foundation of forming their first phase. And our first phase, we call it your general prep phase. Yep. So we introduce exercises to be able to prep their body up for the subsequent phases that we give them. Correct.
Fantastic. Sounds very, very organized and disciplined.
You got to be, mate.
You have, haven't you? I mean, if you don't have a system, that's how a good business runs, right? If especially as you're traveling, if you've got all of these systems in place, whether you're in the building or not, it will just carry on as it should. Correct.
For a business, but also on my part, this is the system that I've developed that I've actually taken now and taught trainers. So this is the system I teach in a course I call the Coach Level 1 course. So within the organization itself, if you want to be a Level 1 coach, strength and strength performance, we teach you these particular systems that we use in our center by our coaches. And so, you'll be able to see how this actually works from start to finish.
Would most of the people studying that course, are they Australian trainers, or do you have, because of your travels, do you have other overseas trainers as well? What's the typical
I do. So I do a lot of work in Southeast Asia and the Middle East.
Yeah.
So a lot of my Level 1 coach is actually based in Southeast Asia, Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong, as well as the Middle East. So Dubai, Saudi, Egypt. These are the places that I go to.
Yeah. Okay. So how then? Well, how long would it take? I mean, I'm sort of asking the question for people who may be listening that could be interested. How does it work? Is it done online? Is it you did talk about that already? And how long does it last? And what does that give you when they complete?
Yeah. So the online courses, I've got 3 online courses that are up right now, and I've got a platform called learn-asp.com. So it's learn-asp.com. And that is the online learning platform for coaches internationally. That platform has 3 of my masterclass courses. So these are the courses that I feel, out of my repertoire of courses, are the basics that coaches would need to learn, because it's all about your general clientele. It's really all about helping them to put on muscle. So the first course is a hypertrophy course. The second course is a fat loss course. How do you help people lose fat effectively? And the third course is an overall sort of physique transformation course. So these 3 courses are basic. They're on the site. They are self-paced, broken down into small, accessible chunks. So coaches can actually do them over a course of 3 months. Take their time, do that. They are certified as well, internationally certified. So you've got REPS points, you've got NFM, AFAA. So they're able to renew their continual professional development points as well with these particular courses. So once you get these courses under your belt, you now have a really good idea of what to do with clients. And then we can then delve into the coach core courses, Coach Level 1, Coach Level 2 courses. And these typically are held live because it requires a lot more strategy in teaching coaches these particular courses, and a lot more practical. So we need to see how they perform. We need to show them, and every little thing makes a difference. When a client performs a movement, how are you looking at them? Are you just looking, let's say if they're doing a squat, there's so many things to look at. What exactly are you looking for is the question. So we teach coaches everything from that to assessments to sales, which means that how can you package everything together to present it to a client to actually get that conversion or that sale, right? A lot of coaches are in this industry because they're passionate about training, but a lot of coaches, as you know, are horrible salespeople. They don't know how to run a business. They don't know how to better their business or increase their sales. And a lot of coaches hit that wall. This is why you would see that within the fitness industry, the turnover of coaches is extremely high. Within the first year, we get a lot of people who are passionate about fitness losing that passion because now they can't turn it into a business. So it is one thing to love fitness for yourself. It's another thing to want to be able to impart fitness and relate to people. And so we make that very clear within the courses itself. And we aim to be able to give coaches the pathway to translate their passion into something that they can make a living of and make a good living of.
Something tangible. Yeah, good.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they do those first 3 online, and then there's Level 1 and Level 2. So 2 separate courses. And how long?
2 separate courses.
How long do they last for?
So the courses will take 3 days. We do a 3-day live event where we teach them Level 1. And then on top of that, there is a criteria where coaches really have to give me a full write-up of what they've done with a particular client. So we analyze whether they've used that information, how they periodize a program for a client. It can be a 12 to 16 week periodization. So we want to see that. We want to see what they use. And we assess that. We assess the testimonial. We assess the changes in the client. We assess how the client has benefited from the program. And then the coach gets the accreditation.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so Level 2 is the same in terms of duration?
Level 2 is the same. Yep. Yeah, but you have to do level one first. So level one tends to be general population. Level two tends to be specific populations, which can mean athlete, or you're training someone to compete on stage, for example. There are
Okay.
there's a lot to understand with that. How
Yeah.
would you manipulate variables to get them, from 8% to 5% on stage?
Sure.
3% at
Sure.
that point of time is critical.
Yeah. 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 And things that you've done yourself, right? You've competed, haven't you?
I've competed. I continue to compete.
Really? Yeah.
So yeah,
Good on
absolutely. I love it. I love it because there's so much you learn about your body, yourself.
you. Mm,
And the one thing you learn in competition is control over your emotions, control over
mm,
your desires, control over your mind. And that's
mm.
the big thing that I think a lot of people take away, because it's like, okay, I've got to eat a certain way, and it's not just about eating a certain way. It's about what are you wanting out of this?
Mm,
So
mm,
I find it very interesting talking about competition, because there is a lot of underlying uh, things that you will learn from this process, which is apart from I want to look good on stage.
sure.
It's a lot of things that you learn about yourself and principles that you can
Mm,
apply in anything that you do.
Yep. Yeah, it's quite a journey, isn't it? I haven't done it myself, but I've heard from many people that
I'm happy to take you through it, mate. If you're looking to stand on stage in little
Ah,
shorts.
yeah, I was going to say I might be not past it, but certainly a different age category.
That would not be a problem.
Thank you. It's very kind.
Yeah.
I'll give it some thought. So, for winding up, and what things have stood the test of time for you? Clearly, you're very much a systems man. Follow the process, you'll get the result. Make it easy, make it practical. Are there other things, maybe just specifically business or specifically technical, that people should bear in mind, or things that they should add to their list because they've worked for you?
100%. So there are two things that come to mind immediately when you say this. The first
Yeah.
one is you have to learn to be open. So have a mindset where you're continually learning. I think sometimes we
Yeah.
get very complacent in what we do, especially when you're up at a certain level. Let's say if someone like myself, for example, being in the industry for 21 years,
Mm,
I speak all over the world. I speak in conferences, and at times it's easy to slip into that I'm a figure of authority and what I say goes. But
mm,
what you got to understand is that first and foremost, science continually changes, research continually changes. So what you knew yesterday may not be the truth today, right?
sure. Sure.
Uh, and so we have to be open to understanding this whole industry. This industry can tip on its head overnight,
Mm,
and we have
mm,
to learn to be able to accept the changes and to be able to say, look, I said this, I was wrong. Now science has shown this. I'm
sure.
continually learning just as you are as well. So this attitude of being in continually learning and seeking out learning opportunities is extremely important.
Yeah.
I make it a point that every seminar, every conference that I go uh, to try to sit in, to listen to other presenters as well, right?
Mm,
Because
mm,
no
mm,
matter what it is, you will always pick something up. And I think a lot of people are also very, like, let's say, for example, a lot of people do certain courses. When they do one course, they go, oh, I've done this course already, I don't need to do it again. I've actually found benefit in repeating courses again and again and again. Just like I listen to podcasts or books, and I read it again and again and
mm,
again,
mm.
because I always realize that at first time I listen through it, I get the gist of it, but I miss out on so many little things
Yeah.
that the person is trying to convey in their language, in the way they speak.
Mm,
Um, and I encourage people, if you're doing a course, don't just do it once, do it twice, do it three times.
mm,
I
mm.
remember one of the courses that I did with Charles, which is like a bioprint course. I did it 9 times over,
Really?
until the course was actually stopped. Um,
Yeah.
but every year I did it because I felt that there was a need to learn something. And
Mm,
whether I took away an extra 5%, I took away an extra, 10% of whatever he spoke about, the cost could be 90% the same, but the way it was delivered gave me a
mm,
different perspective of
mm,
how I could
mm,
deliver to
mm.
clients, of solutions I could be using. And for
Sure.
me, it didn't matter whether the course was, $3,000, $4,000. I made that money work for me because of the information that I took away. And that really just kind of gave me an edge. If you really want to sharpen your edge, you got to be open to learning. You got to be open that every opportunity that you have is a learning opportunity. So that's the first thing that I would say. The second thing I would say is you've got to be generous with your knowledge. And this is out of self-experience. I remember prior to running my facility here in Melbourne, Australian Strength Performance, it's been around for 10 years. But prior to that, I was a personal trainer in Fitness First, and I was in Fitness First for 8 years. One of the founding sort of crew in the busiest Fitness First in Melbourne City, CBD. And I remember my time down there, I took on numerous apprentices. And one of those things is because within the Fitness First business, everyone runs their own show in Melbourne anyway. So you're an independent contractor. And, we had about 32 different trainers, so 32 different businesses in a tiny little place. Of course, your goal is to protect your own knowledge, your own intellectual property, if that's what you want to call it. And you would see trainers copying trainers all over the place. And I invested a lot of money and time into studying, into learning. I wanted to become the best, to learn more. But in doing so, I also was very selfish in keeping the information to myself. I always felt like, people were copying everyone in. So I hated the environment because I never wanted to share. The more I did that, the more the business collapsed on me, because I call it the law of giving if you really wanted to. The more selfish I was, the more I repelled clients, the more I repelled trainers. So I created an sort of an atmosphere for my own self within that gym that wasn't pleasant. Now, obviously, for me, it was that decision I needed to move myself out of that place because I felt it was toxic for me. And so when I moved and I set up my own facility and I created the space that I wanted, I told myself that at that point of time, I needed to change my mentality. It wasn't about keeping anything to myself right now. It was now about giving. And so I started to pump out information as much as I knew, as much as I gave. But, and this is the most remarkable thing. The more I gave, the more I felt I learned out of that giving. I gave by teaching. I never wanted to teach. Education was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep that information to myself. But the more I taught, the more I loved teaching. The more I gave, the more I learned. The more I wanted to learn, the more information would flow to me. And that actually is now one of the biggest drivers of why I do what I do. It's to continue to give, to give, to give. If there's information that I learn, I want to give. So I've created this site on my Learn-ASP platform that it's called the Inner Circle. So it's a mastermind group called the Inner Circle, and every week I give information away. Whether it's live seminars that I give away, whether it's articles that I give away, it's within this group itself. And I do a lot of research for that. I try to find out the best things that I can give to my students, to those that are within my mastermind group itself, and how I can enrich them. If you see my YouTube, so you see my Instagram, there's always information. I want to give you more information that you can find out there. I want you to question that information. I want you to critically think. So you have to give. And just to kind of tie this up, it's not just about giving information. It is about giving of yourself, whether it's your time, whether it's your money. Give, because as you give, you get.
Yes,
and I can't speak. Absolutely. I can't speak more about that. Yeah.
The law of reciprocity will kick in.
Absolutely.
And not that that's what you're looking for, but that's how it works, right?
That's how it works. Yeah.
People want to return the favor because of generosity.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ben. I've been scribbling while you've been talking for the last few minutes because there's some real gems that I wanted to write down. I've got your website, and those will go in the show notes. What's the best way? You've already given me the learning site, but is there another way or a better way for people to find you other than YouTube?
Instagram is very popular.
Yep. Okay.
So it's Ben Performance Coach, at Ben Performance Coach, and so they can shoot me a DM. They can have a look at the post that I will post up, and it does give them a lot more information about what I do and who I am, and if there's anything that they're curious about, they can always get me there.
Fabulous. That's great. Thank you, Ben. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure people listening will too, because it's been a really interesting insight into your business and what you do. So thank you very much.
Pleasure, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Cheers.